guys about this topic tonight, and I know a lot of people are going to be coming in, so just a little Lori, who always helps me, I talk about Lori a lot. She always calls it housekeeping, so I guess a lot of people call it housekeeping. So a couple things. I stream this through two places, which is Saving Pets and also my page, which is the Spaw. Saving Pets is Kelly Bones' page that I'm an admin for and help her with. And so sometimes when people are writing in from Saving Pets, for some reason, it doesn't tell me your name. So if you want me to know or to address you by name, make sure you put in a little comment with your name in there somewhere so I know who I'm talking to, especially if you think that I should know something, like some kind of inside something I won't know unless, hey Dee, how are you? So your name comes up, so I'm lucky, I get it, but it just depends. For some reason, it doesn't really tell me who's coming on, and so it's important that I like to know who I'm talking to. So I am really excited, a little nervous to be honest, a little nervous to talk about this topic that I really, really, really want to talk about, because it's a very, very fragile topic, right? Look, just between my page and Saving Pets, ruffles have been, definitely people are, their feathers are ruffled, and mine do too. And I have to check myself constantly, and I have to go back and really, really ask myself, like, where is this coming from me? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I angry? Why am I feeling, a disconnect, these kind of things. Oh, Dr. Josie is here. I'm so excited. Did you get so that you can come straight into the link? Lori's going to let you come in. So that's awesome. I'm so glad. Yay, 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 yay. Oh, good. We kind of last minute so for those of you guys on Saving Pets, Dr. Josie Bug is here. She is also, she's one of the moderators, one of our vet moderators. And I can't hear you, Dr. Bug. Are you on mute? Lori, can you hear me? Oh, there we go. Losing you a little bit.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay, I had my Bluetooth speaker on. So.
Oh, good. I'm so glad you came on, because it's it's a hard topic, but it has to be. We really need to talk about it.
We need to discuss.
Yeah.
And I feel like I am in this weird no man's land within it, and I've heard messages from all the different sides.
Yeah.
I never thought it wasn't reaching me. And now within the last couple of years, it's finally trickled down. And, yeah.
Yeah. It makes me want to cry. Like I really, I feel like I'm tearing up right now, just looking at you
I'm getting over my third bout of COVID on top of it. And I really want to say that everybody on planet Earth right now needs to take 10 steps back and needs to first give themselves a big hug for making it through these last 3 years.
Yeah.
And to turn to whichever loved ones they have at their side right now and give them a big hug, and their animals, because we have been through some massive, massive hell. Seriously. Yeah. And I don't think anybody's, we can brush that under the carpet, but everybody's walking around with complex PTSD, myself included.
Yeah.
Quite honestly. And that's at the root of this, because we're not the only profession that this is happening with.
Sure. It's definitely happening everywhere. I wanted to share what made me decide to do this. Actually, is a situation that happened with my dad's dog, and it really emotionally took me through a loop where I had to really check myself, which is what I was saying in the beginning. I had to really check myself, because I was very upset, angry, hurt, every emotion you can run through it. And it's hard, because as a vet tech so many years ago, I keep saying we would never have done that, but that was then, and this is now. And so I'm trying to put myself in check, but just to let everybody know, this is what happened. So I'm gonna share a little story with you, and then we can kind of dive deep into this. I'm sure other people have experienced this. So my dad is 87 years old, and his Sheltie was 19 years old. And he knew time was coming, but my dad's 87. It's one of his friends. He has two, and he was struggling to make that decision. By the time he makes the decision that it's time to lift her up and let her go to heaven, he's waited maybe too long, and now he's desperate. Like, I want it done now because I finally am ready to be there. So he calls his regular vet that he's been going to for 25 years or 20 years, and they told him no, they couldn't do it for a couple of weeks. And he now is struggling. He's got this dog who's suffering, and he's probably been suffering too long. And that's, I don't want to say on him, but it is, right? Like, and then we get mad at the vet because they don't jump to it and do it. But it wasn't just that bothered me, that they said no, but also we called a bunch of veterinarians in our general area, anybody, right? At this point, you're like, anybody, can someone do this? And we heard a lot of, well, you're not a client here. You're not one of our clients. And so we can't do it. And you're not one of our clients, and you're not one of our clients. And that was the moment when I went, oh my God, like compassion overload or whatever. Like, they just, I don't want to say they don't care. I don't know how to express it, but I think they're getting to that point where it's like, look, we're so overloaded that we can't even care, because we don't have time to care anymore, because they probably had 500 other clients all week that have been doing that. And so
I'll tell you, that's
awful.
my policy right now, unless you're a previous client of mine.
Yeah.
Because my own emotional state is on overload.
Yeah.
And it's a lot to have somebody come in with a dying animal who you don't know their background. And I myself can't just go in there and say, okay, let's put him to sleep. Boom, done. Let's get on to the next thing. I can't do that for myself right now. So, there are a lot of small vets going out there and starting up practices of at-home euthanasia. But it's like, I was at a conventional vet conference a month ago or so. And it was the first time I got to talk to people that were working in clinics and, pretty conventional veterinarians. And I got to see through their eyes what they're dealing with. And there is such a veterinary shortage across this country right now that people are waiting 2 to 4 weeks. So there's, regardless of anything, waiting 2 to 4 weeks. And so everybody's there, the industry, the corporate industry, is backpedaling because honestly, they helped create this issue.
Right. Agreed.
But now what's happening in these vet clinics, like you and I worked, you saw veterinary medicine, and I keep going back. I'm like, why can't we just go back to the way we used to do things? But now these clinics are getting new vets coming out that have not even touched an animal in clinics because of COVID and because of our failed veterinary medical education system, just like human medicine. Yeah. So I heard a story of a girl, she was hired on as a vet. She is too afraid to do a physical exam in an exam room with the client present to lay her hands on this animal.
Oh, no.
Okay, then when she does get a case, she takes the animal in the back to examine it, and then she proceeds to walk around the clinic to every technician and every doctor that happens to be there to get their take on what is wrong with this animal and diagnosis and treatment. She is that unprepared to be in practice.
Wow. No confidence.
This is what's happening behind the doors.
Yeah.
And this vet who was telling me this, she's like, we don't know what to do. We have had to stop taking new clients on because we are maxed out.
Yep. I think that's part of I know, Dr. Barry Sands had said, she was so overwhelmed with trying to heal skin and ear issues that she just started doing emergency clinics because she couldn't. She was treating the way that, this is before she was holistic. She was treating this, and they were constantly coming over and talk about compassion overload. She just was like, they're just sick. They're always sick. I'm not healing anybody. Well, she left and went to the emergency because she thought, well, at least there I can fix a broken leg, kind of thing. And I think that's part of the problem. Like, I look at when I do, because of having the spa, and I have to take people's animals to different vet hospitals all the time. And I
Mhm.
just look around and I'm like, this is part of why you have compassion overload, because you're not, these animals are, your lobbies are filled with animals that shouldn't, they're not getting one and done, kind of like, here, let me help you do this, change the diet, do this, do this, do this.
They're
It's
not getting anything to solve the problem. They're getting a Band-Aid to put on, so they come back the next week with another thing where it needs another Band-Aid.
right.
But
And
then
then
at
our
the same
holistic vets like
time,
you are inundated because people finally go, oh, okay. And so they're flocking
but
to
you
you
know
guys.
what? I'm on another edge here, and this is really rubbing me bad. I had actually, number one, a vet, one of my first vets I worked with out of school, is now using the term holistic in his practice, and he's far from holistic.
They
Okay,
all
so
are.
not
Yeah.
sure-
It's
yeah,
getting
it's
ridiculous.
ridiculous. Then the second thing is at school where I was teaching, I actually jumped in and overrode a younger veterinarian when she was telling this woman to give her dog Bravecto for flea and tick, when I had seen her other dog across the room that already had tremors from Bravecto. So I stepped in because did not want to see this dog. I told her already, stop the Bravecto, please,
Yeah.
and read the warning. And then a vet across the room tells her to give it. Well, I walked over there. I can't I made an oath, right? I'm not going
Right.
to keep quiet. Well, I was pretty much asked not to come back and teach.
Oh,
So there's a lot of politics going on out there. There's a lot of watering down. There's a lot of people online who want nothing but free things. I'm available for consultations and they hear my price and they can't pay it. So I'm like, then go down the street and pay your $100 over and over and over and over,
yeah.
And then the other thing is you get tired, and I'm sure you're tired of this, of talking about food and not vaccinating and then having it reversed.
Yeah.
I had a dog go in. I just gotten this Frenchie's gut straightened out on solutions, ruptured a disc. The board certified neurologist refused to let them bring in their own dog food. So the dog ended up with horrendous diarrhea. You can imagine going from solutions onto like Royal Canin ID or whatever it was.
Can only
They told
imagine.
him the dog couldn't be on raw and had to go on kibble. That's when I got that message from them. I cleared my calendar and went over to their house to get the whole entire thing straightened out. But it's just this you feel like you're on battle lines
It is
all the
battle
time.
lines. It is.
It's
It's
insane.
absolutely. And I'm not a vet, but I sometimes find myself on compassion overload, and that's where I had to check myself when I'm getting angry that the vets aren't seeing my dad's dog, and telling, and I kept thinking, God, but what about the dog?
Where
Forget all the other stuff. What
yeah,
about the dog? The dog is suffering, and like I said, we could of course
yeah,
blame my dad, not the vet, but I mean, that's a hard decision for anyone to make.
yeah.
And I don't think anyone makes it right at the exact right time. It's usually finally you get to that point when you make that call. And I think that should be aware of that. But I think I'm mostly upset that the reason we're on compassion overload is because we're not treating them the right way. All these
Yeah.
animals wouldn't be this sick. We wouldn't have our emergency rooms are filled with skin and ear problems.
It's
Emergency
insane.
rooms.
It's insane.
Right.
No, I have a small online group, and pretty much the only people daring to walk through the door, it seems, are people who are already feeding raw and everything
Yeah.
else. But
Yeah.
I put out a call to everybody. I'm like, "What are you guys doing for flea and tick?" And they're like, "I'm not doing anything. We
Yeah.
don't have the problems. They're
Yeah.
on raw.
Yeah.
We don't have ear infections. We don't have. There's no questions. I do Q&As. There's no questions because dogs are not having problems."
Yeah, my dogs don't have ear infections or skin
Right?
problems, or
Right?
I just, and if we could get to that, then our vets wouldn't be on compassion overload, and our vet techs. And sometimes I think that the receptionists, I wanted to bring this up because
Oh, that's bad. They're bad.
the
So
gatekeepers, I
bad.
call them, they are the gatekeepers. And but I think sometimes the reason the receptionists are so, like the one that told, and my dad had been going to that vet for years, and she was the one that said, no, I'm sorry, we can't do anything.
That's horrible.
But I think that a lot of it had do with their protection of what will become their friend, right? You get very close with your receptionists, and we work in close proximities, and you become you become friends with them. And so I think that that's why the receptionists a lot of times will become so, no, you can't get in and I can't get you an appointment, and they become like that because they see the
I had
fatigue.
that. Yeah, I had that with a client. I was trying to find rehab for this little dog that had a herniated disc, and I think he's right on the edge of walking really well with some rehab. I sent him up to a client, a vet that I know very well. The receptionist was so nasty to her.
Yeah,
She said, "Josie, I would never leave my dog with them, let alone go back there and make another phone call to them."
yeah,
And he told me what happened. I was literally aghast because I know that vet and I know that practice. And it's like, what is going on here? And so now I put out a call for even a tech who knows rehab, to come to the house to help this dog. I'm looking up the videos and I'm going to go. She's like, "Will you just come and do it?" I was like, "Fine, I'll do it." You know, uh,
yeah.
it's
I do
just
think a lot of times, like, we think it's the vet, but like, I've had to constantly go, that vet may not even know.
what's
His
going
vet
on.
may not even know that that receptionist told her no.
Mhm.
It could be even, I mean, I hate to say it, but some of the receptionists, maybe they don't want to work late, and they know that if they take that one more dog, they're going to have to work late. So they just say, we don't have anything available, and then hang up, and the vet never even knows. And then we're angry, right?
Yes.
And the
They're
vet,
the front line. They're the front line. I've gotten in fights with receptionists at
yeah,
clinics I've looked at,
yeah,
literally with them making calls. And I was like, "You can't do that. You're
yeah,
not a doctor.
yeah,
And if there's something wrong with that animal and you make that call and they die, we're going to be in trouble for it,
right.
You
Right.
can't."
No, I've seen receptionists do that too,
Yeah.
where you're just like, can I talk to the vet? Like, I don't know that this is going to be a really great call. I actually
Yeah.
have my mom's doctor's receptionist did that. My mother, not like, I was calling to talk to the doctor about some medication that my brother had put my mom on, and my mom passed out. And we were in the mountains, and so I'm calling the doctor. I finally get a hold of the doctor, and the receptionist tells me, "Well, um, just keep giving it to her and I'll have the doctor get a hold of her." And I said, no, no, I'm not. Like, no, I need to talk to the doctor. And she was like, well, I don't know when she'll be available. And I said, well, until I hear from her, I'm not giving her any of this. So, and then she told me I had to. It was but it's a thing, you
It
know?
is a thing. And that's how this little Frenchie that had a $15,000, mind you, surgery, never spoke to the doctor on discharge and never spoke to the doctor for 2 weeks post-surgical. So they were
Wow.
calling me up with all these questions, and I finally got so tired of it. I called and I got the neurosurgeon on the phone and I said, "Listen, I need to know exactly what you did in that surgery. I need to know detailed anatomical, what went on in the surgery and what your discharge instructions were and everything else." And then I kept him on the phone for a good 40 minutes asking questions so that he had to take up some of his professional time to speak to another professional. And then I ended it with, "You could have saved all of us all of this grief if you would have gotten on the phone with the client or met them when they came to pick up their pet on discharge." But they're taking this line of, "Well, our support staff will take care of that. We're just in there doing the surgeries." And I'm like, I called them out on it. You
Yeah.
know,
I
I
mean,
it's
it's
it's it's not my job to give your patient your discharge instructions. It's your
right.
job. Yeah.
Yeah. But then when you get vets that are saying, okay, I'm going to take it's, I get where there is no real answer. Like I said, let's come up with some solutions. And I do have some things I want people to hear. But at the same time, you have this really great vet who's compassionate, and you just think, charge more, take less. Like that's the simple solution. Charge
That's
more,
what I'm
take
doing.
less. You're
That's what I'm
right.
doing.
But then then when you say I can't take any more, you're the jerk, right? And so
Yeah,
it
exactly, or you're too expensive, or I've had people complain over giving on my free PDFs of giving me their email. I mean, that's why I'm burnt on social media.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then on the other end, Carrie, there's another end of this too, where everybody's so desperate for help. There are people out there training people in extraordinarily short amount of times
Yeah.
to be so-called holistic pet coaches that really have no business doing that,
Yeah. Yeah.
who are going out there and charging a very minimal fee. And when I start seeing people coming from people like that
Yep.
with major problems, then we're going to have a whole nother layer of issues.
Yeah, no, we see it. I see it all over on social
Mhm.
media. I mean, you'll see I'm constantly like, that's what I love about saving pets is,
Yeah.
you know, we try really hard to make sure that the followers understand, like, we have admins and we have veterinarians if we need to pull you guys in. But then
Yeah.
there's always somebody who wants to, which is great. We want some advice, but you can't just say hard and fast, don't do this, don't do that, because you just never
Yeah.
know. We just had a post that just came up just today, and it was asking about the two teeth that are, she says there's two teeth that are stuck together, and then everybody
Mhm.
says, oh, they're their baby teeth. Well, maybe you don't. We need to see the picture. No one even saw a picture. You can't just assume
I
that
saw
that's
that, and
the
I went down the exact line of reasoning you just brought up, or there's a picture of like, "Oh, is this a tick bite?" Well, I can't, half the time people send me pictures, my clients, and I'm like, "I can't tell
yeah,
until
yeah.
I get over there and really look at it
You
with
gotta
my own."
really sometimes you really gotta get your
Yeah,
hands on it and do it.
yeah.
So a lot of times we will tell people, this is probably you just really need to have a vet look at this.
Mhm.
But because we also recognize, like, God, what I really want is for people to learn as much as they can. Maybe become an RVT. You can get an RVT license so you can help start treating your own animals as much as you can,
And that
because
would be a better way to go because, I mean, you really need, being an RVT, you have to have some background in anatomy and
yep,
physiology. And then
yep,
that's not even covering medicine and
yep,
pathophysiology and pharmacology. And, I mean, I have all
yep,
of this. Plus, I have a whole nother subsection of energy medicine where I'm tuned in and can be able to do,
right.
medical scans on animals and things like that. But it's a lot,
It is. It is. It's a lot.
30
And
years of learning and
well,
practice
part of
and
it too is
experience.
learning, like, when you're wrong, right? Like,
Yeah,
oh, and then
yes.
you, you
Or being able to say, "I really don't know.
don't
We have
know.
to figure it out, but I
Yeah.
don't know,"
Yeah.
you
And
know?
a lot of people don't want to, they just want to go straight to this is what it is and how you fix it. And you just have to be careful.
Or go to the remedy that's going to fix it. This is another thing I'm seeing. You can't just use an herb like a pharmaceutical, like an amoxicillin or
Right.
neosporin or this. It doesn't work that way, and there
Right.
is not one single magic cure snake oil remedy out there
No.
that's gonna take care of it. There
Yeah.
isn't.
No,
I've seen it
we're
come and
seeing a lot of
go.
that too. I talk a lot about that, about the over supplementation, the over this. We're just
Yeah.
bombarding because of my boarding facility. Sometimes I see it both ways. I see people come in with a lot of medications, and that's
No, that's
embarrassing. And then I see the other side of it where they're coming in with a lot of supplements.
yeah,
And I'm just like, okay, well, we haven't really changed anything, so we're just using this instead of that. So
yeah.
but I just keep
It's
looking back at what do we do to help. I dropped off a book. If you guys saw my post I did the other day of all the books, I have these books, and then I give them to vets. Well, the veterinarian that we finally called, and she agreed to put my dad's dog down. He wasn't a client there. I never met her before. I walked into her office, and I will tell you, it might have been the least holistic office I've ever been in my life. Like, right away on the counter was Cheese Whiz and a few other items that I was trying to hold back my but she was very kind. Her front staff was very kind, and so I brought her a book, and I brought her the Forever Dog book, and I wrapped it up, and I just left a little note, and I said, thank you for being so kind to my dad. This book has helped me a lot in my career working with animals. I hope you'll find the same information
mhm.
helpful to you. I haven't heard from her. I don't know that I ever will. I've given books to vets before. But I just really think that, when I
Plant
look
a
at it
seed.
from a
It's
compassion thing, it's frustrating when clients don't listen to you, right? That's the other part of it. you're trying and you're spinning your wheels and they do part of it and not
Yes.
all of it, and then they don't know why it works, then they're angry at you and the animal is
Yes.
still sick, right? Oh.
Yes. Right. Or they do it for a while and then they stop and then everything comes back and you're like, why did you stop that?
Yeah, yeah. Or not long enough, right? Oh, I did it for 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
and so I always tell people you have to really be. I've gotten to the point now, I guess it is compassion overload, where I literally have told people if you're not going to follow through, then you're wasting your money. Because what happens is they bring me the dog like a week or two later and they're like, oh, he didn't really like the food. So I just didn't give it to him. And then I see the skin problems. And so I'm heartbroken because I just feel like we gave up on the dog. So now I'm just honest with people. I had a guy the other day, his dog's dental is pretty bad. And he says, what would you recommend? And I said, well, diet change, da, 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 right? And I really like that product, Teeth. I really, really like it. And so I said, but you're looking at about 3, maybe 4 months before you're going to notice anything. But what I like
Mhm.
about it is it's not going to destroy the gut biome. It's going to create a better biome in your mouth. And he goes, that long? And I go, yeah. And you have to be consistent. You can't just do it once and walk away and think it's going to work. And he goes, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And I was like, good. Then we're both on the same page. I don't have to get upset later on. You're not going to be
Right?
upset. Like, let's just walk away from it.
Yeah.
I wish he would, but he was at least honest with himself,
Yeah.
because it's frustrating for everybody when we're not going to follow through. And that's the thing is it takes time. It takes time.
Yep.
It's not a one and done. And that's where I think a lot of the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, you're going to love this. I know this is going to get you because you already tapped on it a little bit. I think a big problem, and where for all of the people, followers who are listening, we have some power and we ought to take that power back. And I
Mhm.
really believe we have to stop taking, if you can, I know sometimes you can't, we have to stop taking our dogs to these big corporation vet clinics because it's just, I don't know. The even if you have what I have found in those, even if you do have a vet who wants to be compassionate, who is wanting to do all of the right things, they're stifled and they're squashed in their ideas and they have quotas they have to make and it's just
They
causing
have
it.
they have the drugs on the shelf that were on that the practice manager on up in corporate made a deal with big pharma.
Yep.
So every dog coming in with this infection will get this antibiotic and we'll get this protocol. So
Yep.
they already have their treatment protocols set.
Before your dog walks in the door.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is what's gone on with human medicine. And now they've just taken it over to do the same playbook with
Oh.
veterinary medicine. So
Yeah, but we gotta put our foot down. I know it's hard,
support
but
support the local independent veterinarians. I mean, this conventional practice I did go to, there were two, they it was they didn't have the big pet food stores there as vendors. They had just, what is it, Just Now for dogs or just pet food for
just food
dogs?
for dogs.
Okay. But it's a step in the right direction. It is a step in the right direction. They had an hour talking about acupuncture. They had an hour talking about rehab. They had an hour talking about the board certified anesthesiologist got up in front of this conference room and said, there has not been a single study proven that gabapentin does anything for pain control at all. Okay, I was in the back row, like I almost got up and started cheering. I had to go up to all of them. So there's a certain pressure being felt from that end coming on down. I mean, the anesthesiologist, she worked at like AMC up in New York City, and there was another critical carist there, which I don't think they have gone corporate yet. But you could tell they were coming out with these new ideas and new ways of handling things, and they were a little bit iffy on how they were going to be received by the vets in the room. But I do think your average veterinarian wants to help the animal, but they are hogtied with the
Yeah.
corporate stuff and
Yeah. Which is going to cause burnout, right? If you're
yes.
feeling like, I don't know about every state, but I think this is also another problem. I wanted to open up a vet clinic. I wanted to hire veterinarians that I hate to say this, but whatever I'm going to say, I wanted to oversee a little bit so that it didn't
Yeah.
become a sales thing, that they couldn't they didn't have quotas. Like I just wanted to have a little control over it. And guess what? In the state of California, I cannot own a veterinarian hospital unless I'm a veterinarian. So you can't even
There's
find,
yeah.
and
And
I
here,
don't
I
know that
mean,
that's the way it is everywhere else.
it is in Florida, except for like spay and neuters. But then at the same time, to open up a practice with the regulations and getting it, there is so much money involved. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
It's
I
insane.
just wanted to open up a place that we didn't have to, I didn't want to do like a bunch of surgeries and stuff. I
Yeah.
wanted to just have like a wellness clinic where you're
Mhm.
just setting your pet up for success. That's it. Like I don't even want to see, you won't need to come back to us if you just listen to this. Like I take these puppies and get them on the right thing, but you had to have a veterinarian either be partner. My husband would know more. He looked into it deeper. They had to be partial partner or they had to be owner. And I
Yeah.
just thought, that's going to cause a lot of problems. It's just going to
Yeah.
cause a lot of problems. And,
And then
I
you gotta
thought,
find vets to hire.
yeah,
That's a
but
big issue.
well, yeah, I'd have to find vets to hire, but I was kind of thinking, there's got to be a vet out there that doesn't want to be a salesperson. I've seen this happen in
Yeah.
too. And I caution people to be careful of this. I've seen where I've had this really great vet that's working for a small veterinary clinic and they're
Mhm.
great. She, he, whatever has been great. And I go there, then they open up their own clinic and you're like, this is awesome. It
Uh-huh.
usually in about a year and a half, I've noticed to 2 years, now they start realizing that why the other vets want them to sell, right? Because they start pushing their products and selling this and all of a sudden they turn into a whole different person. And
Well,
and
we
I
come
get
out
it
with
because
huge
there's,
amounts of debt. Listen, I'm never going to pay off my student loan debt. I have
yeah,
160,000 and I'm
oh, Jesus.
57 years old.
Yeah.
I don't have a retirement plan. I don't have health insurance, not that I would go to a regular doctor
Right.
anyways.
You're like,
But
yourself.
I don't have any of that because I struck out on my own and because I can't keep my mouth shut and not speak truth. And I
Yeah.
can't sit there and sell when it's not the right thing for the animal in front of me. But now we're dealing with inflation. Now we're dealing with a whole nother set of economic pressures that are hitting both the animal owners and parents
Everybody.
and
Yeah.
everything. And yet corporate had stepped in and just started jacking the price up so high and tried to get everybody on pet health insurance. But pet health insurance industry isn't regulated because God forbid we have any regulation in this country whatsoever. And so now they're dropping people. I can't tell you the amount of clients I have whose pets are now geriatric, they're in need of cardiac consults, they're in need of specialized care, and they can't get it because their insurance premiums tripled and quadrupled on them
Yeah.
after paying the whole entire life of that pet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
I
don't
told
recommend
this
people
lady, I
always
said,
are asking me about health vet insurance. I don't like it.
take the money and put it into a CD or a savings account
Agreed.
and save it up yourself or put it to good food.
Yeah.
For goodness sake.
Put it to good food. I know.
Buy
Look at somebody $194 a month for one dog for insurance. I just think, yeah, I would put that money, if you're going to do it, I would put that money aside.
Yeah.
Imagine what,
Yeah.
and there's always those stories, right? Those stories, well, my dog got this and I was able to do this, but I think put that money towards good food and from the very start.
Yes.
You get people come, this, they come when the dog's 12 and it's so bad and now they want to fix all of those problems overnight and it's really hard to fix those problems no matter what. And so
Yeah.
it becomes an issue, but I
Yeah,
just
'cause you're on the front lines like I am. You're having dogs come into you, and it wears and tears on you,
it
you
does.
know?
It does. I think
Mhm.
that we can do a better job of communicating with our vets in a way that we say to them, listen, I know this is I know Roz, one of the women that is on here, she told me just recently in my area a vet tech committed suicide, and she posted it on here. And my brother committed suicide, so I'm very aware of that, and to think that I don't want to be angry. I don't want to come into a vet hospital
Mhm.
angry and upset and blaming and threatening. I get enough of that at my own place. I get blamed for everything, and I'm just doing dog hair. Like, I'm just cutting the dog's hair, and I've got people tell. I had a woman tell me one time that I ruined her life,
Oh
and
my
because yeah, we cut the dog's eyelashes shorter than she wanted them. So I can only imagine the emotions that run high it's not even imagine. I used to be there. I used to watch how people reacted and what happened. And, but we have to communicate better.
But
With
it comes back to communication. Like in all my time working, all my from my house call practice all the way back to when I was working in clinics, I rarely had problems because I would take the time to communicate. And
yeah,
if that technician was banging on the door saying you only have 15 minutes, I'd say no, I don't. Tell them I'll get to them when I get to them
yeah,
because I need to talk to this person.
yeah. You
There
have to,
has to be a one-on-one communication, and the vets out there need to set up some type of communication line directly from them to their clients. There's this whole thing they're hiding behind receptionists and they're hiding behind that front desk. They're hiding behind the drop off. I still have clinics here who are only doing drop off.
I have that here in Orange County. We still have, which is really like, it's interesting because that's a whole nother, right? I look on both sides and I think, okay,
Yeah.
I know from being on the inside long enough that he's doing it because it takes up too much time. Because when you're a vet, you have to see the patient and the owner, right? So like if I go to the doctor, then it's just me and the doctor. But now I've got this animal that I got to examine. I got to communicate with the pet owner, and it takes up an enormous amount of time. And the stories and the this and the that and all the stuff that goes on. So I know that he's doing it because he kind of liked the idea that he didn't have to do that. And I get angry at that because I don't think it's good medicine. But at the same
Listen,
time,
I would know as a vet, I would not, there's not a single vet on this planet right now where I would feel comfortable taking one of my animals and
right,
dropping them off for the day
right,
and not going in there and explaining what's going on with them. I'm
right.
sorry.
No, I
They're my
agree
family. They're
100%.
more they're my children,
Right.
and they are not gonna be dropped off some curbside service.
No,
That's
I agree. But then there's the other side of it, right? Where we don't have enough vets. He's seeing more dogs. So I'm like, like I know he can see more dogs doing this, but at the same time, I'm like, this is bad medicine. Like, how can you possibly? So I have to err on that, right? Because I don't want accidents like someone had just mentioned. And it does happen where you bring your dog up, they take him in the back, then they come back and they're like, oh, while he was back there, we
we
realized,
gave them all these vaccines.
yeah, while he was back there, we thought, oh, we'll do this, that,
Okay,
and the other thing.
lay down, pull down your pants, and you're gonna get the same amount of vaccines. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
I would flip out. They would probably have to call the sheriff in if somebody did that to my animal.
yeah,
I'm sorry, but
yeah.
that's inexcusable. And
They do it.
so there
And
needs to be a give and take on all sides. And I think that with people educating people about how to take care of their animals and how to be proactive and how to take your power back,
yeah,
diet is number one
number one.
across
But
the
we
board.
can't even agree on that.
I got a summer book club going right now on Juliet DeBarclay-Levy's The Complete Herbal Handbook for Dog and Cat. It was written in 1955. The introduction to that, it's $11 a month, and then you can cancel the membership if anybody wants to join. The introduction to that is she is talking about the same exact thing we're talking about here. She went to veterinary school as a woman, applied in the 1920s.
Wow.
And that was when Rockefeller and the Roosevelts and all Rothschilds were taking over medicine. And she lasted a few months because she said, I want to heal animals. I don't want to sell pharmaceuticals and give them chemical poisons.
Right.
That is an introduction to this book in 1920. Like this happened in 1920s. And the very first chapter of the book is on diet and raw feeding.
Yeah.
So, this is not a new story, and it's not a new issue, and it's not a new predicament that we're finding ourselves in. It's just amped up times 100,000. because we're all, there's not enough of anything.
Yeah. I think Dee had mentioned, so how do we drive the change? I think it's for one. I'm going to say this. I think we have to stop going to these corporate. We have to,
Yeah.
like you
Support
just,
your independent.
yeah, because if you go to the corporate, you're losing your vet's losing her ability or his ability to even treat the way that they want to. So you're not getting what you want anyway. The
Yep.
thing about that I want to point out is a lot of times you are not going to know that it's corporate. You need to ask
Mhm.
because they're buying out these little small mom and pops. There's one right down the street from me. It was called Arbor Animal Hospital, and it got bought out. And guess what it's called now? Arbor Animal Hospital.
Yep.
It hasn't
Yep.
changed its name. So you have to ask. You have to look at sometimes on the receipts it will say Banfield or whatever is a VCA or whatever it is. But I really do think that's one of the first things we can do is put our foot down and just stop going there. Just I'm not going to a corporate place no matter what. I know that sometimes you don't have a choice, but if you do have a choice, take it. Take it
Yes,
at all
I fully
costs.
agree. I fully agree.
I think
Because
that
I know the vets who've sold out their practices and then they want them to stay on for a little while, and it has been a total nightmare.
yeah,
I know a couple. Her was this a husband and wife team, and it was so sad because now, but it was their way to get out and have retirement. They
yeah.
didn't see any other way to retire and get out from under it all. You know?
Yeah. And I get that. I mean, at some point you want to, I mean, we've
Yeah.
seen that happen in the dog food industry and people get mad.
Yep.
I can't believe they sold out. Well, what do you want them to do? I mean, they should just walk
Yeah.
away from a lifelong of,
Well, and the supplements, for God's sake, every supplement, I just did a whole post on that the other day online, and it's disgusting
yeah.
what supplement companies are left.
And,
That's why I'm teaching how to make your own herbal infusions, buy dried herbs from Mountain Herbs and make your own
yeah.
medicine.
And that
That's
is the
you know
other
where it's at.
solution is learning yourself. You
Yeah,
guys, that's the good thing about an animal. There's a lot of things a pet parent can do all by themselves. You just need to get hooked up with someone like Dr. Josie, some of the other vets that are trying to teach you guys ways to do it. And you figure out how to get through it. That you could do ozone on your own animal. Can't
yeah.
do it on yourself. You can't do it on any other animals, but you could do it on your own animal. So there's so much we
You can
can
do
do.
red light therapy. You can do,
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
there's so many things.
Yeah,
And
there's so
that's
many
what
things.
I'm teaching red light therapy and on how to give your animal an acupressure treatment
Yeah.
at home.
Isn't that amazing? Like the stuff. So
It's
I think that's where the power comes in where, and not only that, but the more of us that are doing that are willing to do that, we're going to take some of that load off of these veterinarians. So it's kind of a win-win, right? When you have somebody who is a little more intuitive and a little more in tune to their animals, somebody like you guys who would come on and do this, the more we take control, the less pressure we have on these vets because I'm not here to bash vets. Everybody knows that. I feel for them. But I also feel that the compassion is like,
we're also brainwashed that there's a quick fix. Like
yeah,
it's even worse of just give me the pill to give so the problem goes away.
yeah,
And we have gotten that way with our own issues, with our children's problems. And that's part of why we're in the mess that we're in right now.
I know.
There are no quick fixes.
So many
And
people want that. They come to me too and they're like, just tell me what
yeah,
to do. And I'm like, well, I could tell you what to do, but if you don't fully understand why
yeah, you're
we're
not gonna
doing that, you could mess it up and it won't work. You can't just, right? If they have a yeast problem, I can't go, oh, just here, feed them this. Because then they go get them dewormed and do this and do that, and then it all, it doesn't work.
yeah.
So yeah, you're right. The quick fix, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. It doesn't work. You have to understand it, learn it, educate yourself
And
deeper,
do
deeper.
preventative. That's
Yeah,
I mean, I just took this dog from the Kentucky hills. The reason he's so healthy, he was out there scavenging on deer carcasses, and so he can literally eat anything. And
anything.
He ate corn husks from tamale coverings, 6 of them, and they all went straight through his gut and out the other end, no blockages. And I keep telling him, I'm like, if you, I'm not opening you up on my kitchen table if you get a blockage.
He's like,
Stop.
what's a blockage? He's like, what's blockages? He saw I'm a dog.
He's
Yeah.
a dog eating everything. But his gut is so healthy from living out in the woods and eating all this crazy, rotten deer legs that have been laying around.
Yeah. Yeah, it's we have to get back there. We have to be willing. I think another thing is we have to be willing, like I told you guys, I brought that book. We have to be willing to put ourselves out there, right? I just dropped off a book. She may never call me. She may hate me. I told her where I work, who I was, everything. She didn't know all that prior to, because I just went in with my dad. She had no idea who I was. But I had to be willing to take that risk of being shut down and never hearing from her. And, I'm willing to take my dog to her. She was so kind. She was so kind to just say, whatever I'm doing, I'm stopping because I don't want this dog to suffer any longer. And we weren't a client there, and to me that spoke volumes. Like it made me think, I don't know, she did seem kind of young. Maybe she's not burnt out yet, maybe she doesn't have I hate to say yet, but I'm like, okay, maybe she's still in that, go and good. I'm glad. But at the same time, and her front office was so nice. I have not had a good front office staff at a vet hospital in a long time. I mean, I'm shocked. And people always say, they treat you like that. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, I'm nobody. They don't, like, what do they care? They don't care who I am. They're trying to be that.
I've been treated like that as a veterinarian.
Yeah. I mean, man, it's almost like their resumes are, how I question how they hire them, because some of those receptionists, they're scary. They're really scary.
Well, they hire them because of that, because they are the gatekeepers,
Yeah.
And then they're rewarded for that behavior.
God, we were so the opposite back in my day. We were like, I remember going back to the vets going, can you please just take this lady's dog? I feel so sorry if that's how we were. Yes. We were always begging the vets to take more. Like, I didn't care if I had to stay late. And there were times where we were like, we'll pay for it. We'll pay for it. It's just not that way anymore. Now it's just like, no, get out of here. We're busy. It's just like, I'm laughing, but it's not funny. It's I just don't know I'm thinking, how do we I know that some people tell me that they always buy pizzas and stuff for the receptionists because they're trying to make them be their friends. Yeah, we'll just buy them a bunch of pizza, and maybe that's what we got to do. Maybe we do need to do a little bit more of that to kind of let them know that they are important to us and that we do need them. And maybe we do need to do a little bit more of that. Maybe that is part of the solution, is to take off the constant accusing and put a little, because that accusing you of everything is just awful. It's such an awful feeling. I got bit by a dog one time, horrifically. Had to go to the hospital. I was sticking a needle in his front arm, and the girl that was holding wasn't able to hold him hard enough, and he leaned down, and I saw the scar. You can't see it, but I saw this giant scar. And I remember at the time, and this was back in the day, the owner's like, well, what did you do to him?
I was like, and here you were bleeding. You don't know if your hands.
No, it was the next day, because I went straight to the hospital. They had to dip it, soak it, and everything. So then the next day when he called, he was like, what did you do to him? And I was like, well, I stuck a needle in his arm because I was supposed to. But I know that still goes on, where I think for that man, he was worried that his dog bit somebody and he was going to get in trouble. So he figured he would project it onto it being my fault. And I think that happens a lot in veterinary medicine, right? It's just projecting.
Oh, it does.
You're nervous, you're scared, something, why is my dog throwing up? And he wasn't throwing up when I first brought him, and now he is. What did you do? What medicine did you give him?
There's a lot of accusation that goes on, and a lot of fear right off the bat. And and that immediately, because there's a lot of mistrust. There's the trust is broken. Yeah. And to regain that trust, there has to be, I think if you can find a vet that you trustworthy, and if their office staff is not nice, bring it up. Maybe say,
have to. Yep.
hey, here's a great training program online for customer service, you
Yeah.
know? Maybe
Yeah.
your staff could.
Well, it's hard too because if it's so hard to find staff. I have
Yeah,
20.
it is.
I run really well with like 27, 28 staff members, and
Wow.
right now I have 25, and it's still okay, but I'm struggling to get back to the extra little staff that I like to run with. So sometimes you're keeping people. I think a lot of times vets are keeping people that they wouldn't normally have kept, but the person's showing up and answering the phone, so they keep them. But I do
Exactly.
think we do have to communicate with our veterinarians and say, hey, listen, you may not know this, but your vet, like I probably should call that vet and say, my dad was trying to get his dog in to get,
Yeah.
I'm guilty. I didn't, because I just didn't want the confrontation. But maybe that's what we need to do, is start speaking up and realizing that the vet is not the receptionist.
Yeah, in a nice way. It's like I called this neurologist and I said, I need to talk to you because there's a whole bunch of unanswered questions here that I can't
Yeah,
answer, but I need to have a discussion with you, And he was
yeah,
actually very nice on the phone.
it was. Oh, good.
Yeah, he was very nice on the phone.
Yeah.
But, you know, and then he went and he said, and we lined up their visit the next day and everything else. They still never got to talk to an actual vet, but they had certain things covered.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. I think we're all
it's
doing a good job. Everybody who's on both of these sites, you guys are doing a great job of trying to keep our pets from going. But now it's time. That's why, we're doing that expo. Dr. Bug doesn't like to fly, so she may not be coming. So
well, I'm like, because of the whole COVID thing, I actually went up and saw a really good band and got on a
Oh,
plane.
that's right. You did. Yeah, you said, oh, which band was it? Because you said this is the only band I would fly for or something. I remember seeing it.
It's Love and Rockets. It's the members of
Oh, right
Bauhaus from back in the 80s,
on. Right
man.
on.
It was their last tour. They're probably their last tour. They got the best reviews of any band going.
Oh, good. Good that you got to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when we do this expo, one of the things we're going to be doing is literally training people how to communicate. We're doing some exercises with people on how
Uh-huh.
to
Uh-huh.
communicate, what to say to your vet, when to say it, how to communicate, because that's where the disconnect is, right? You walk into your vet and you say you feed raw diet, and your vet's like, you're going to kill your dog, and then you say this and walk out, and then that's not good.
I mean,
So
half the time, depending upon the vet, I'll tell people to kind of warm up to them first and not
yes,
even bring diet.
don't even
And
say it.
if you know they're against raw, don't even bring it up. Say, yeah, I feed whatever. I don't remember the brand. I'd have to look at the bag. I
Yeah,
get that all the time. I don't remember the brand. But there's a way, it goes back to nonviolent communication too, which we're really lacking these days because we're on this social media has really done a number on us. I mean,
so
here we are on social media, but I hate to say it, it has.
I know.
And people can lash out and they have forgotten basic one-on-one niceties between one another.
Yep.
And I mean that's probably what's kept my house call practice going is people there when if their animal dies, they're like, you still have to come every week because I need somebody I can sit and talk to. Nobody has anybody they can talk to.
It's true. Yep, I'm reading some of the comments. Two crazy cat ladies are here. Sorry, guys, I didn't see all these. I wasn't paying attention. I was so interested in what Dr. Josie was saying, but somebody earlier had brought up, that we hear this a lot. All vets want is money, right? All they care about is money, 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 money. And then somebody had brought up, and it's a really good point, is that you can still make money and sell more. You don't have to sell drugs. You don't have to sell constant antibiotics. You don't have to do that. Veterinarians I think they would be less stressed if they kind of gave in and came over to the more holistic side and were actually healing and sell. I don't even know if this is the same girl, because she's putting it, vets can make money by selling good food and selling supplements, and because we all have to make money to survive.
Yeah.
I board dogs. That's how I make money. And I groom dogs, and that's how I make money. And I've been yelled at for being too expensive, but I want to take less dogs. I don't want to take 150 dogs. I wish I could, but I have to charge more so I can take less and still pay my staff. But but trying to, the two crazy cat ladies, they are actually going to be the teachers at the Thriving Pet Expo. They're working on, they're going to be doing
Oh,
a lot of the improvisational, like
cool.
vet visits. Like, what are we, okay, what do we do? What do we say? And so trying to get that
Cool.
communication better so that we're not attacking our vets and we're helping them, and planting seeds is what they said, planting seeds. Front office at my vet is quite good. Oh, you are lucky. That's Apple the Golden. If you guys aren't following Apple the Golden, I highly recommend. It's really awesome. Apple's so cute. I'm just kind of going through these a little bit so I don't miss anything. Lily must have, God, how did I miss all of these? I'm so bad at this. If they did more tighter,
If
they
we're
would make
talking, you can't. I don't know how people can
yeah,
watch.
I'm not very good at it sometimes when I do this. Lily writes that more titers, but we're actually, I don't know how you feel about that, Dr. Josie, but I mean, titers aren't something that you should, maybe what she means is to do a titer. I see what you mean. She means just to do the titer, not
Well,
necessarily to say not.
when I got out of vet school, it was like 1998. I started my house call practice in 2000, 2001. I was running titers because back then it was still, you do your heartworm test, you do the vax, all right, I'll do titers. I was getting so many positive titer results that I stopped after
Like,
I
girl,
don't run titers. And I just saw that post coming up of like, well, we don't really need to run titers every year. And I
right.
was like, well, I kind of started doing that about 15 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a really close relationship with my clientele. You know, they
That's
can,
the important part.
if they need to get in touch with me, they have my personal text number.
That's
But
amazing.
I train them with very good boundaries
Yes.
so that they know when my time off is, where Dr. Josie's recharging. I'm not on the planet. I'm off doing my spiritual meditation retreat, whatever you want to call it. But they know they can write a message and I will get back to them. And I set that up. I set those boundaries up, but I set that communication up.
Yeah.
And if they do need to get in touch with me, they can get in touch with me. But honestly, there's also, because we're in such, I have such a built up relationship with them, they know when to take their animal to the vet, what to say at the vet, what not to do at the vet, and what to do, and when to get a hold of me and say, okay, yeah, they gave me the bottle of gabapentin, but I didn't give any. And I was like, perfect, just throw it away. So I train them
Yeah.
and give them that support network so they feel like they have that behind them,
We all need you in our life, but you
So,
bring up such a good point. We all do this. This is the other part we need to stop doing. I've done it too, guys. So don't, but they gave me the gabapentin. I paid for it, but I'm not going to give it. We have to start
stop paying
communicating.
for it.
We
Stop.
have to stop paying for it. We have to say, I'm not comfortable giving this to my dog because I read this study, or I've given it to my dog before and he passed out in the corner and was
Listen,
not
you can say a board certified anesthesiologists are now saying that there is no proof. There is no scientific proof anywhere that it does anything for pain.
for pain at all. It just
And
drugs
tell
them.
them, if you've got a study, my other vet would love to see it. I would love to see a study proving it does anything for analgesia.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Not
we have
there.
to, that's the other thing we have to do. We start communicating this, right? Start saying it. I will never buy another drug I'm not going to give to my dog ever. But I did. I'm guilty of it. Because you don't want the confrontation. And it was actually, to be fair, it was that vet that leaves you out in the parking lot. And so I would have had to actually call back and do this whole thing. And so I just let the tech give it to me. And of course didn't give any of it to my dog, but and it wasn't gabapentin, it was tramadol, because he spayed her and he gave me a ton of it, and I was like, I did give her a little piece that night, but that, other than that, I was like, this whole bottle, I could sell this on the street.
So sad how much we're veterinarians have become drug pushers. It's really sad.
Well, that's part of the problem too. I don't know how you feel about this, but because I've talked about this on the show before. It bothers me that vets sell the drugs. I know there's some good vets out there that aren't going to be doing it, but I just think there's just such a conflict of interest to have them be able to reach for the drug and make money.
Whether they're selling it or whether they're writing the script for it, because they're actually not. There's a big push, and vets have lost a lot of actual money from selling directly, but they're still scripting it out because big pharma's got their claws in. They've got their claws into the vet schools.
Yeah.
It's
Oh yeah,
insane.
for sure, for sure. But
Yeah,
we have to, if we keep speaking up,
yeah.
and saying it and
It's
not being afraid to.
turning. The tide is turning. I mean, I saw it turn at this last conference. It was like literally 6 weeks ago, and I was really almost in shock. But I feel like the tide is turning
I
in
think
the
so.
traditional world,
I
conventional
feel like
world.
it never would.
Yeah.
Wendy brings up about
Everybody's so
SoCal. She's talking about SoCal not having any holistic vets. We have thousands of holistic vets out
yes.
there, Wendy. They're all fake, but we have thousands of them. I mean, they say they're holistic, and then they sell you that flea and tick stuff like it's candy, and it just here, and meanwhile their whole sign and everything on their website says that they're holistic, and
Yeah. Yeah.
they've got your puppy on. Uh, Flea and tick medication, heartworm medication. They've dewormed him twice, and the worst kibble your dog could ever eat on the planet. And by the way, here's some cheese whiz so that you can give him the pills that you got to give him, And yet they call themselves holistic. So yeah, you would think, Wendy, in Southern California we would have some real ones. We have one down in San Diego, but not kind of immediately like the Orange County area. We don't, but we have LA one, and then that I can find. There might be some out there, so don't call me out on this. And if you guys know
They're
one, let me know.
becoming rarer and rarer,
Yeah, yeah.
and when I see people using the term and they're not really doing it, it really,
They're not. I just wrote an article called "Stop Looking for Your Holistic Vet." If
yeah.
you have one, great, but you have to stop because you're. What happens is people walk into their holistic vet hospital and just shut their brain off, and they go, "Oh, well, she's holistic, so I just do
Oh,
whatever
wow.
she tells me to do." And then they walk out of there with antibiotics for a non-bladder infection, and they walk out of there with the flea and tick because she's holistic, so this must be the holistic flea and tick toxic stuff. So I wrote an article saying, stop, just stop. You have to
Yeah,
educate
yeah.
yourself and make the decisions for your animal by yourself.
And people
Because
have to be empowered. Again, it's like you can't just if you can't sit back and have somebody else change your diapers and spoon feed you. I mean, a lot of people want that. If you look at our political system right now, and we're heading down a not a good road because people just, feed them, give them cake, right? But it's give them Netflix and Amazon
yeah.
and their holistic vet, and then they can sit back and, you know, not worry about anything.
Well, I think I think for me, I think I'm going to start just presenting it differently when I'm in there and you're in that state of frustration with your vet, just to remind them. I've said this to vets before, like, do you remember when you went to vet school? Like, I try to bring them back to when
Yeah,
do you
yeah.
remember how excited you were to become a vet, and when you were a little girl or, a little boy and you just wanted to be a vet? Like, can we just go there for now while you're looking at my dog? I'm just going to take you back to this calm place where all you wanted to do was heal animals. And
Or sit and like I've literally had to stop people. I had to do this when I was teaching up at the acupuncture school. I had to do a 10-minute breathing meditation because this one girl was just losing it. It was we'd just gotten in there and she was like, it's too noisy, it's too this. People have so much going on in their heads that, that's why I have like a weekly meditation. Come just sit with us and breathe for 15 minutes. It's not a lot of time,
yeah,
but it will get you somewhere.
maybe we should do that before you go. So there's like 3 rooms lined up. You go to this room first, and it's just a meditation room. And then you finally get to the vet's exam room. So you're calm, the vet's
The
calm.
animals pulled out,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Because it's on both sides. The pet parents are frustrated. We need to meet in the middle. So
Yeah.
it's interesting when I wrote, are vets is the vet industry losing compassion? And to answer that, I want to tell you that I think both sides are. I think pet parents are not being very compassionate to their veterinarians and to their vet techs and to their receptionists that are taking a lot of pressure. And I do think that vets are losing. I have to admit that there's been times where I'm like, I want to throw my hands up and just go, and then I feel bad. Then that night, right? I'm like, oh, that poor dog. I shouldn't have gotten so frustrated that they're not listening to me, and that poor dog. And and then I can't get a hold of the client, and it just becomes this problem. But I think vets are on they're losing it,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
think
I think everybody is. Again,
uh,
like when I started this, everybody on planet Earth is right now. We have some major healing to do with everybody
we got to get back.
on this. Yeah, and just take a break. Just give it, there's this, and that's another thing I think that can be this the social media thing has done is like we've all have to have it now. We can click a button and have it, whatever delivered to our doors. No, life doesn't work that way, you know.
The
Just
other day, somebody wrote on, somebody was asking a question, and I had just come off of, I kid you not, I'm not exaggerating, 16-hour day. 16 hours, I was exhausted, and I wanted to give an answer, but I had no energy. And so I wrote FMT pills. I wrote FMT pills. And then I'm sorry if I'm calling the person out, but, and talk about me having no compassion. Then she wrote, please don't just write FMT pills. And then kind of, I took it offensively. I'm like, just Google FMT pills. It comes up right away. Like, I don't have time to like
I am right there with you.
everything. Like, I feel bad because I really wanted to, but I like a lot of this is all free. Like, everybody on Saving Pets, none of us are getting paid. We do this
And
for
and this is another thing. People get on these free things. Oh, but I have this question and I want somebody to answer my question for free right now. Guess what? We've answered that question over 100 times. That's why I put out the how to switch your cat to raw food. That's why I put out my,
Yep.
favorite feeding list. Here's a whole list of foods.
Yep.
And if people want to start getting a hold of me, they're going to start getting more of that because I can only answer the same question so many times.
So many times. I've talked about having a little like buzz, like the little button that just
Yes.
repeat, which is really a sad commentary because
That's like
they're the
AI.
same problems. They are the same problems over and over and over. But I get it from the pet parent, right? They don't know. When I tell my
Yes.
clients,
Yes.
oh, we see this every day. They're like, what? And I'm like, yes. Not a day goes by that I don't see the exact same problem that your dog is facing right now. And they just, they're dumbfounded. And so I kind of get it from their point. They feel like they're just in shock and what's happening and why my dog. And the real answer is why everybody's dog
Yes.
is having the problem. And we do know the answer. But I put FMT pills because we had talked about fecal microbial transplant pills a million times. And I kind of felt bad because I got a little heated because I was like, Google it.
But we didn't even have to worry about fecal microbial transfer pills back in the 1990s.
Exactly.
This is a new problem, folks. And it goes back to our agricultural system and our soil health and our soil being depleted. And the fact that we have some regenerative farmers are saying we have less than 20 years left of good soil on this planet. So that's another wake up call. But again, that forces people into this place of like, oh my gosh, maybe I need to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we gotta get these puppies, the next generations, like these new generations that are coming. We have to fix it. That's how I feel. Like if we keep going in the direction we're going, and breeders, I want breeders.
Cats, that was written in the 1930s, and they were saying the same thing back then. I hate to say this, but it's like a recurring thing that we've still not worked our way out of.
It's so frustrating.
It's frustrating. It's extraordinarily frustrating.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is like people's hands may be forced, and that may be why there is a shortage of veterinary medicine, of like, guess what? I might have to open a book. I might have to talk to somebody. I might have to do some reading. I might have to do some research of my own, because guess what? We have this thing called the internet now, And there are so many courses out there and so many things. I mean, anybody can contact me if they want to contact me, And
you're crazy though. I tried that. I started giving my cell phones because it seemed easier because I could text people. And then I put my boundaries out. I did. I swear. I was like, look, I'm going to give you my cell phone, but you got to promise me these are my hours. Please do not. No.
Well, my cell phone ringer isn't on, and I only go back to people I want to get back to.
See, that's my problem, is because I have the 24-hour clinic, like the boarding. I got to set it up so only. Yeah. So I have my phone on constantly, and then people will call me at all hours of the night, and it's just
And that's such a big, huge responsibility. People have here's the other thing people don't realize. When you like in your situation where you have 24-hour boarding, in my situation where I have a legal veterinary license, and when I took that on and we take this responsibility on, we know those animals' lives are in our hands.
Yep.
And we take that extraordinarily seriously. And that is a huge pressure to carry around.
Always, right? It
That's
doesn't stop. I
always.
don't go home at
In
5 o'clock and then it's good. Like I
if
don't.
I give an animal or they can't get a hold of me, or what if I screwed up and this and that and something's going on,
Yeah.
or what if I could be there and I could get them through another month of their life or something,
Yeah.
it's a crazy, and people have to realize that and give us something back for that, for that,
No, it's okay. It's true. We do. We do have to realize the pressures, obviously. I mean, to find out that the suicide rates are so high in the veterinary world is just heart-wrenching to know. And I don't know. It's sad. Do you think, I also think how sad it is for the vet to know that they're like, when you came out and you're like, yeah, I'm on compassion overload. I admit it. I didn't think it was going to happen to me. It's happening to me. How sad that is for you to be able to say that.
Where I got training in this? Because I spent 8 years in the animal rescue shelter field.
Oh, that's hard.
Okay, Humane Society of the United States, American Humane Association, they came up with compassion fatigue.
Yeah.
Because when
I
you're
don't know how
talking
you did
about
it.
walking through kennels and saying you get to live and you get to die and you get to live and you get to die, and those 10 puppies over there, they're out. That will give you compassion fatigue. And so when this started up now, I'm like, holy smokes, I've got compassion fatigue now. But I lost 2 of my most important loved ones in my life over the last 3 years. And one was a fentanyl overdose. And that, again, you say like suicide, when that happens, something like that happens to a loved one, it really throws you off,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of people have lost a lot of people in their lives.
Yeah.
There've been an extraordinary amount of deaths.
Yeah. I don't think that people realize that. If you were to just get 50 people in a room, we're all going to tell you we've lived through some tragedy, and that should bind us together, not, make us just hate each other. We should
But
realize.
we're not allowed to. I mean, there are resources out there in therapy, and I've taken years and years in therapy, but it's still, sometimes we need to give ourselves compassion first.
Yeah.
That's number one, is to have compassion for ourselves, whatever we've gone through, whatever path we've gone through, whatever animals we've lost recently, when we're caring for an animal with chronic disease. Oh my God, that's huge. It's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
So we have to have compassion.
I think
And when
so.
our hearts open, then that we'll greet the world with that open heart, and then we can meet in that same place.
Yeah. I do. I think that if vets could just step back a little bit and forgive themselves for the mistakes that they've made. There is no vet out there that hasn't made mistakes.
And there's so much pressure put on them. I just read an
So
article the other day in a vet journal, and it's like some vets take every single death absolutely personally, but they don't talk to anybody about it, because then it's like, oh my God, then if I take it personally and it was my fault, then I'm going to be sued and I'm going to lose my license and I've got this much in debt and my whole career that I've dreamed about is going to go down the tubes.
And now everybody's going to think I'm a bad vet. So
my
I went
reputation,
through this.
everything.
I had a dog die in my facility a while back, and for a long time I wouldn't talk about it because I thought, oh my God, no one's going to want to board their dog with me. They're going to think I'm a horrible person. Da, 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 da. So I didn't talk about it, and now I talk about it a lot. And I've come on here and I've talked about it, and I talked about the owner and the way that the owner handled it. She was amazing, like literally one of the most amazing things I ever went through. I at one point told her I want to write a book about some of the stories and things that I've gone through at the spa, and the way that she handled it was just, had she not handled it that way, I'm gonna tell you right now, if she had not handled it that way, I may not have the spa today, because the day that it happened, I closed my store the day that it happened. I never wanted to do this ever. I did not want to be responsible for people's pets ever, ever, ever again. I
Yeah.
cried. My husband had to come home from work. It was just the most horrific thing I've ever been through. And then I had to call her while she was on vacation and tell her what happened. And he was a puppy.
It's
He
the
was a
worst.
puppy.
Yeah.
So it turns out that he had a heart condition that he was born with that was undetected by a crappy,
Mhm.
not,
Mhm.
well, the vet was being paid. It was bought from a pet store and they had a contract and the vet was pushing it under the rug.
Yeah.
But I think about that, how she handled it is why I still have the Spaw to this day. Had she not. So you
Yeah.
think about all the times that veterinarians are being blamed. And then they don't see any way out, right? There's no way out. I can't sell my business or I can't quit my job, my family. I can, oh God, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a lot, and, you know, a lot of people, they don't have a therapist, or they don't feel like they have time, or who's gonna take an hour to go pay somebody $150 an hour for therapy or whatever, you know?
yeah,
It's so vital. I mean, I tell that even to my clients. Most of the time, I'm a therapist to my clients, but you know, talking again, it's that telling our stories and being able to talk to one another. It's
and
so
being
important.
okay with it. I know. When I
Mhm.
finally came out and talked about that dog dying there, I'm telling you, I'm glad I talk about it to this day, and I tell
Yeah.
people flat out, yeah, I've had a dog die under my care and it was awful, horrible, worst thing ever.
Well, you know, those animals, it's like I've had a couple of animals die. Well, actually, my boyfriend's cat died in my arms after a dental cleaning.
Oh,
She was awake and I had extubated her and I was holding her while I was writing charts. But it's those types of stories that animals die on our watch that you will never forget that animal. And they're there to teach us something about the whole scenario. We're
yeah,
not in control. There is not a single person that is in control of anything. And if you think you are,
true.
you
I know we like
know,
to think we are.
yeah, yeah. And, you know, I've had patients too. I've had them on the best diets and raw food and everything else. I had an incredible trainer here at Championship. She works for Purina, and the Purina shows Championship agility dogs. She lost 3 dogs in 2 years with hemangiosarc. And she's like, "Josie, I'm ready to throw all the holistic stuff down the tubes, you know, because here I still lost my dogs."
Yep.
So it still happens. Cancer still happens. Disease still happens. Dogs don't live forever, and neither do we. So we have a very short time on this planet
Yeah.
to do what we can with it while we're here.
That's such a good point you bring up because
You
a lot of people in the whole, I know Rodney Habib had talked about when his dog got cancer about the embarrassment. Like,
know?
how could this happen to me? I know all this holistic stuff
Yeah.
and then it happens and you're like, oh my God, don't tell anybody because then they'll think my belief system is false. And then they'll be like, aha, I told you holistic stuff doesn't work. And the
And it's that
reality is,
shaming. It's like this shaming
it is.
thing.
It's a shaming thing. It
Yeah.
is. It is. But the way I look at it is, you're right. There's toxic stuff everywhere. We cannot get away from it. I don't care how hard you try. You're not going to. But for me, holistically, I just know if I never put flea and tick stuff on my dogs, then that won't be what kills them. If I
And
never,
you're doing the best you can. You know,
yeah,
you try to do the best you can.
yeah, yeah, we do. So I'm so glad that you came on. Like, this was just, I wasn't sure. I never know who has time, who wants to come on, who wants to
I
do it.
just saw it randomly and I'm like, because I needed to talk.
Oh,
So
good. I hope that it helps.
yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
We're
Yeah.
behind you. We're all here. I know some people were thinking like I'm gonna go against vets. I'm not. I want us to come together to make a better community. I don't want to ever have to call. I think we called, I want to say 12 veterinarians before I found somebody that would put my dad's dog down. I mean, it was just phone call. I had my receptionist doing
That's
it. My dad
horrible.
was doing it.
That's
His own vet
horrible.
it was awful. It was awful. And it was time and
Wow.
time again. You're not a client here. You're not a client here. I don't have time.
Wow.
Our vet's out sick. I mean, it was one thing after another. And I just thought, oh my God.
Well,
And
I have a list, and you might look, I have a list of people that are doing it at home, Lap of Love, and
yeah,
some of them independents. So if I'm gonna be out of town or I'm gonna be gone, I send that over to my clients.
yeah.
And so that, or at least
Well,
people,
I used
because
to have one of my, she's actually a really good friend of mine, and she is a vet, and that she used to do that. And it's actually
mm,
really sad. Talk about compassion overload. She would do home euthanasia. She did my golden retriever years ago, and she's been fabulous. And then she had to put her own dog Tashi down, and that was it. She can't do it anymore. She's like, I'm never putting another. I can't. She's not been able to do it, and so I didn't want to call her because I know she would have, and I didn't want to. I I had to have compassion for her. I'm like, I'm not going to put her in that situation.
no, and
I,
I felt the
I need
same
to
way.
find a
I've
group.
a lot of euthanasias lately, just because there was a point I was like, I can't do it right now. I was doing a lot during COVID because there was this whole drop off thing. And I was like, I cannot allow that to happen.
Yeah.
So I was actually going to people's yards, backyards, and things like that and doing it that way.
Bless you.
But then it just got to, you could just reach a certain point where it's like, I got to take a break. And I've
Yeah.
got 2 elderly ones myself right now that I'm taking care of. So
When they get old, it's scary. So we talked about some of the solutions. I hope you guys got all of those. But one of those solutions that we talked about is learning and educating yourselves so that you don't have to rely so much on the veterinarian. And Dr. Bug teaches some classes. So how do we get in here?
follow me on Facebook and Instagram. If you need to, the other thing is you can send me an email, Dr. Josie's 5elements at gmail.com. Because sometimes the Instagram messages and Facebook, well, usually my Facebook messages come through pretty good. That's a pretty decent time. The Instagram messages, sometimes I get bumped over, for people who aren't followers of mine.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I have a lot of boundaries. I have a whole you have to get through the, what do they call it in the military? You have to get through the barbed wire and all kinds of stuff before you even get to me, just on a spiritual basis. But
Dr.
that's the way it is.
Dr. Suter just this is my little plug for her because I just love her so much. So Dr. Suter just became this is going to make a point. Her book just got award-winning international book of the year. And
Oh, wow.
so she's not the one that you guys know so well, but she's involved in another book that was out there. So she's now an international award-winning author. And that, anyway, so today, right before I came on here, I was on the beginning of that, and they were talking about just kind of what you were talking about boundaries and how to heal yourself. And somebody had said, one of the people who wrote in that book had said, you can't even give to anybody else if you're not in the right space, in the right mind. So it's actually one of the most selfless things you can do is to take care of yourself and your mind and your body, because otherwise you're half the person that you're providing, which is what we're talking about, right? When the veterinarian isn't taking care of themselves and setting up those boundaries and not taking a million clients and not doing that, then they're on compassion overload.
And also, if somebody comes to me just wanting to take, that's a big boom. Sorry.
Yeah.
There has to be, and there's a different, I don't know. And also, I've always say, like, people are like, well, what if I can't get in touch with you? I'm like, the animals that need to get in touch with me, get in touch with me. I swear to God, there's like a beaming signal or something going on there.
That's good.
Yeah.
So. All right, guys. Well, we're going to let everybody go. It's super late for Dr. Bug and anybody else who's on the East Coast. I'm over here in California. It's only 6:30 to me. So
thank you, Carrie. Well, think about flying out. That might be fun.
I would love to have you there. It's going to be the two crazy cat ladies and Dr. Katie Woodley are going to be. They're performing quite a few little kind of improv to try to get people to walk them through it, right? Because we need that. I think people need it. So we're excited about doing some performances, not just educational, not just lectures, but some performances in between. So it should be fun. It would be love to have you there. Of course, we want to have all of you guys there. If you guys can make it out, it's the Thriving Pet Expo. So check it out. And we'll be back next week and, here on Saving Pets, answering any of your questions and stuff. So, but I hope these little tips have helped you. I hope we can bring some compassion back to the veterinary field. I think vets want it. I don't think of vets walking around going, I don't care. They don't, Dr. Josie doesn't want to be on compassion overload.
Yeah.
So we love you, Dr. Josie. You are doing such a fabulous, fabulous thing for all these animals. And I love your voice. I know you're like, I get in trouble all the time, but I always say, thank God there's
That's
people
why
like
I'm a
you.
loner. I can't because something comes up, I'm gonna speak it.
I love
That's
it.
part of my own healing is like when we shut our voices down, especially as women, that creates a whole different backlog,
Yeah.
and it's you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
We all need to have a friend like you walking around with us. Can you tell them, the big chickens like me, I always get a little nervous.
right.
I used to have a friend that was like that. I remember I was in the hospital in Mexico and I was like, do whatever you want. And she was like, no, stop it. And I was like, I love her. If it wasn't for her, I'd probably be buried in Mexico somewhere. And they'd have my credit cards because I was like, it's okay. So, but we're thankful. The animals are thankful that you're their voice, and just keep on going, doing what you're doing. And please take some classes with Dr. Bug, guys, so that you can get more educated and treat your own animals if you need to. It'll make a huge difference. So,
Yeah, check me out. Check, if you're interested in the book club, even just sitting down and reading this book together and coming up with stuff. And I have some amazing, compassionate, very high level people in my group, but there's some very beginners too. And so, just come over and hang out.
and they can find that all over at the Five Elements, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
Send me a PM and I can send you a link and stuff. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
You're awesome. Well, get some rest. Thank
All
you
right.
so,
I
so
will. Thank you
much.
so much.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Thank you. We'll see you guys next week. Take care, everybody. Bye. Bye, Dr. Bug.
Bye.